Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome once again to your weekly dose of non-duality and self-inquiry. As always, thank you for joining me. It is very hot here in Seattle, and since this is the only ventilation I have, I've got my back door open. If it gets too noisy, I will shut it, like, because I do get some planes going overhead and the like. But if any of you have sat through a satsang with Muji in Rishikesh, or even heard of them, well, no comparison. the tuk-tuk's beeping, and it's very noisy, a very noisy place. And there are some noisy people around here too that love to speak on the phone outside. Because it's hot. It's almost 100 degrees here. It's in the 90s, and it's supposed to get over 100. Very unusual in Seattle. Nonetheless, if need be, I will close the door. So let me know if you think it might be too noisy. I'll check the comments to make sure. If it is hard to hear, I will shut the door and just endure. You may watch me sweat until, because the fan I have to turn off too, because that is too loud. So at any rate, welcome everyone. I'd really like to focus today on freedom. I was reading through the comments and the questions before, because many of you have arrived early and actually even put questions in. And the key, the answer to all of these questions is genuine freedom. We're always seeking freedom from something or freedom to something, right? Freedom from whatever it is in our lives we don't like, and freedom to the things that we want to do that we're not able to. And this is the common definition of freedom. If I can do what I want, I'm free. And if the things I don't like are not present in my life, then I'm free. That is the common definition of what freedom is. That is not the spiritual understanding of freedom. That is not spiritual freedom. If something is happening in your life and you don't want it to be happening, all of your effort is on getting it to stop, one way or the other, right? Now, that can be some kind of an event, it can be some kind of circumstance you're in, but it can also be just on the spiritual path. I want to be the freedom to be enlightened, and I want to get away from my mind, my ego, all of this thinking. There are even practices you can practice to get out of your mind, practices to manifest the things that you want. All of those are well and good, right? But they don't actually touch on freedom. Because if it's real freedom, if it's the real freedom, it can't have a cause. It can't have a beginning and an end, right? Because anything that begins will end, right? So any freedom that is any dependency on anything external, right, will be incomplete and lost eventually. Okay. So, 1 minute I'm sitting top of the world, everything I think of manifests in front of me. I've got a great relationship and a good job and all of that. And then sometimes gradually, sometimes very quickly, the pendulum swings and suddenly it's not so good. The job, your company gets bought and all of a sudden you're either out of a job, right? Or you're now dumped into some place that you just, some function you can't stand. And everything shifts, right? Empires rise, empires fall, right? And we're witnessing the fall of an empire right now. What then is true freedom? Well, the only thing I can point you at for true freedom is yourself. It's got to be yourself. It's got to be inherent in your actual nature. It cannot be a condition that comes and goes. So as you're pondering this, realize that no matter what the question is, and I am going to answer as many of them as I can, whatever the question is, isn't what you're looking for deep in your heart that sense of freedom? And in our immaturity, we've defined that as I can do what I can just do what I want all the time. That's why people seek wealth. They don't seek wealth for the sake of wealth. They seek wealth because it's purported to give them this great freedom. Now, the the studies and the statistics on it are absolutely conclusive that it doesn't deliver that. It just puts you into a different kind of bondage, because now you're trying to hold on to it. She's buying the stairway to heaven, right? Real freedom is a sense of well-being, a continual sense of well-being that is completely independent of all circumstances, situations, and conditions. That's freedom. It's also happiness. I am not dependent upon something else for my freedom. I am my freedom. And that is only discovered when you discover your true nature. The Buddha that is you. The true self, the Shiva being. All the names that we have for it are all metaphors, pointing you back to you, the you that you don't really know, because we have been completely mesmerized by the mental picture that we hold of ourselves. And that mental picture is you identified with the body, thinking of yourself as a person, right? Whereas the self, and when I talk about the self, I'm not talking about something abstract, right? I'm not talking about this amorphous thing out there. I'm talking about you. You are the self. Even the seeking to find the self is being watched by you, by the self. You can't get to the self any more than you can get to yourself, right? Can you stand up right now and walk over to yourself? The thing is you are the self, but the mind keeps telling you you're not. You're close. Oh, just one more practice, one more meditation, one more retreat, one more seminar. Then I'll be the self. That will keep you going forever. Forever and ever and ever, because the mind, ignorant of the self, will continue to create new ways of seeking. Now, seeking is, you just can't stop doing it, right? It's an essential part of spiritual growth. Right? You are all here because you have arrived at the place of the seeker. Quick check here to make sure everybody can hear me okay. There we go. And this is a natural and an essential part of our spiritual growth. It is the sign, the symptom of awakening. The heart and mind have turned within. That's what the seeking is all about. but it can become a trap. Because the mind doesn't actually want to find, because it doesn't know there's anything to find. It's just constantly looking for a better version of itself. That's all your mind will do. That's all the egoic mind does, is simply create new versions of you. Just like, the ego's not a thing, right? It's a concept, it's an idea, it's a self-image that is being constantly regenerated. All right, that was beginning to me, this sounds like somebody drilling on a Sunday. I'm not quite sure why, but there we are. So, who then are you? When I ask that question, what happens is that your mind, because it cannot recognize you any more than it can see space, it can only see objects. So when I ask the question, who are you? The mind starts trying to formulate some shape, some form, some sense of self, some kind of self. That's what it does. That's all that the mind can do, right? Because it's not the tool for the job, right? By the mind, I simply mean thinking, right? Even to a certain degree, contemplating. Because this discovery is made through seeing, through witnessing. And you don't need a thought or any kind of discursive content in order to see, to know. That is, not knowing intellectually, but to experience, to witness. I can't tell you about you any more than I could tell you about an orange. You've never tasted an orange. You've never had an orange. I can give you all the details. We can Google oranges. We can look at the various varieties and where they grow and the effect of the soil on how it tastes and how to peel them. Some will peel by hand. Some have to be knives. Some are made for juicing. And I can go on and on and on, right? And you'll have all sorts of knowledge about oranges. But if I take it, peel it, hand it to you, now you know the orange. You know you. The self, the true you, is the one that is hearing my words right now. The one you walk around all day referring to is I, me. That is the self. That is the Buddha. You, just as you are. The mind just keeps saying, oh, no, that's not the self. The self is this big, magnificent, formless, infinite thing. Mind tries to come up with these ideas, even using words like, pure consciousness or pure awareness of the absolute. The mind jumps on it because that's all the mind can do. It has to turn it into some kind of perceivable object. But the fact of the matter is that any perceivable object is being perceived by something, right? And isn't that something you? This is what's meant by Vedanta. It is the end of knowledge. You cannot know yourself. That is, discursively, intellectually, analytically. You can form no image that can be you. It's like trying to form an image of space or infinity. You can't do it. It's the moment you make a shape, you define an outline, and it's no longer infinite. It's no longer space. It is content. It is the simplest thing in the world. Right? It's just you. But we're so used to, whenever I hear the word me or I say you, your mind immediately presents to you some concept of who you are. And you have believed that that concept is you. And because of the power of consciousness, the power of the self, the belief in that version of you creates all the experiences that revolve around that image of you. It literally calls into experiential existence that content of that belief. So it appears as if it's actually true. It isn't, and it never was. That's why the appearances in front of your senses cannot be trusted. The mind cannot be trusted. Yet, do you not know that you are? You take away the mind, take away the body, take away your past, the future, all concepts of yourself. Would you still not be here? Would you simply be aware of this emptiness? Of course, you're still here. You are not knowable. The Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao. And the Tao is not a thing out there. It is simply another word for you, for the self. You are the Tao. Well, I'm going to let that go for now. But please take this to heart. The only mistake that's being made is the notion that you are not the self. And because it is so deeply believed, it creates experiences and circumstances and relationships based on this belief that you're not the self. And so it has, your whole life is conforming to an image that is not you. It is infinitely simple. There's nothing simpler than one. You can't get any more simple than that. But the mind cannot fathom one. It can only fathom many. It has to have one in relationship to something else. So you are unknowable to your mind. And I'll leave it at that. So, welcome. Welcome, all my dear friends. So good to see you all. Do like and share. I get my plug in. Hendrik. Hello, Hendrik. Lake Constance, Germany. Question for GP. Feeling strongly depressed and anxious due to some well-known triggers. Still, energies finding their expression outside. I open into that energy and let it have me and try not to want to change it. After some time in openness, it changes, but it comes back and back, etc. Any hint? Love, Hendrik. Can you notice, Hendrik, that there's this subtle idea that if I allow it to be there, if I practice allowing and I just let it be, I let go of it, that it's supposed to go away. Right? It's just supposed to go away. And as you said, sometimes it does. It just kind of, there it is. Good. And then it comes back, right? Now, if freedom depends on that going away and never coming back, you're never going to actually be free. 10 years from now, it could be back. Some other button might get pushed, and then something else comes up, right? I mean, the human nervous system is just a bundle of buttons. I mean, you can't see them, but there's buttons everywhere, right? So as long as there's this desire to do a practice like the yoga of allowing, in order for things to go away, there's a subtle conflict, a subtle duality. Right? There's a subtle war going on inside of you that somehow you have to get to this other state. And that when those are not there, there's this feeling of openness and spaciousness and peace. And you think, that's it, right? And then it comes back. I've lost the openness, the spaciousness, and the peace. And this is just the misunderstanding. Whether you are experiencing emotional calm and stillness or a quiet mind, or whether you're experiencing a very turbulent mind and all sorts of uncomfortable feelings, buttons being pushed, triggers that are still active, is not the one who is witnessing both of those the same, no matter what the particular content is. So the self is not an emotional state. It is not, it is, I know this can be hard for folks to grasp because in the self it's just pure peace and it's pure stillness, right? And the answer is yes, but it's not an emotional stillness. It is a stillness that transcends all opposites. So it's there even if there's some kind of an eruption in the nervous system. And there can be, right? There can be. Even great masters like Ramana Maharshi had those moments, right? Because it's just the nature of the whole body-mind structure. So the mission here is not to get fix the body-mind structure in order to know peace. It is to realize that you are peace itself, and that will do the rest. When it really doesn't matter to you anymore whether these triggers happen or not, then you are free of them. If you are dependent upon them not being there, you are not free. You have set up an imaginary relationship between yourself and these emotional upheavals or emotional experiences, the triggering of the nervous system. You have created a relationship with it that has now made those triggers important. What if they're not important? It was triggered. Oh, I was triggered. What does it mean? Nothing. I'm really afraid. I'm really anxious. And I go, so? Yeah, but I don't want to feel that way. Yeah, but you do. But how do I get rid of it? Don't. Why do you want to get rid of it? Because when I get rid of it, then I'm free, then I'm happy. No. No, if it requires you getting rid of it, then your freedom is very weak. It is very fragile. To allowing is total. It is not, I will allow until it goes away. It is not a therapeutic device. It is not a psychological process. It is a recognition that everything comes and goes and I don't. So it doesn't matter whether there's a tsunami going on inside of you. Put your attention on the witnessing principle of that tsunami. The more attention is there, the less the tsunami can touch you, and eventually the tsunami will cease. But you can't do this in order for them to cease. Until you are brought to the place of truly being strong enough to allow, they will continue. And it's good that they do, because otherwise you wouldn't get strong. We don't want to be children. We don't want to be moral because of lack of opportunity. We want it to be our intelligent understanding of who we really are and how things really work. So, how is that, Hendrik? Does that help? This practice is not for the faint of heart. It is not therapeutic. It is existential. It is not an attempt to simply feel better. It is a practice to get better at feeling, whatever those feelings might be. And when you realize that who you are is untouched by any feeling, you're free. And that can be right now. Right now. It doesn't require anything extra. It requires no condition whatsoever. Just this recognition. Thank you, my friend. Ah, my dear friend, Faith. Hey, my sheik, my spiritual tribe. I'm feeling really exhausted these days, like I'm dragging my body and pushing myself to do things. I feel more depressed as I'm trying to find a job in Canada. I know that my CV doesn't matter as there is no cause and effect, but I can't manifest that. Could you advise me anything, Babaji? Yes. I won't. This body-mind won't. But the truth of your being will. You know, I used to teach manifestation. Even after The Secret happened and it became popular, I continued for a while and eventually had to abandon it because the Secret and just the popularization of manifestation and its, the term law of attraction really just corrupted the entire process. The desire to manifest something is a belief that something is missing when there isn't anything missing. Now, this doesn't mean our desires for more freedom in our life and a better job, a better country to live in where you are more free to be yourself are to be eschewed or put aside as being wrong or something, right? Like you have to live in a monastery and it's nothing but self-deprivation and denial. I'm just trying to prioritize things correctly, because that sense of dragging and that sense of pushing yourself and the exhaustion and the depression is arising out of a rejection of yourself, a rejection of your potential for being free now, not when those happen. Now, the paradox of manifestation is that when I discover my freedom here in such a way that I realize that it is completely independent of all external circumstances, as that sinks in and begins to kind of do an alchemy in the whole nervous system, that freedom manifests itself in various forms. The whole secret in the way the manifestation got taught is exactly the opposite. I hold this thought or this feeling until the circumstances conform to it, and then I'm actually free. That's the manifestation, and it's completely backwards. Everything is a manifestation. It's a manifestation of the dominant belief that you're entertaining. And we're talking, not just beliefs in the head, but beliefs in the body. Energetic assumptions, I like to call them. And in essence, the essence of all of them is the belief, I am the body. I am this person. And therefore, I'm finite, I'm limited, I'm stuck in a world, the world is antagonistic towards me, I have to struggle to get what I need. Now, as you know, in the past, I've told you, don't say, I know my CV doesn't matter because there's no cause and effect. That's a thought, that's a concept you have, right? You're trying to adopt a spiritual concept in order to make yourself feel better, right? Which is okay, right? The CV doesn't matter absolutely. It does matter when you're applying for a job, but it's relative, right? So maybe your CV does need to be enhanced. Maybe it needs to be worded a little bit differently to be more attractive or compelling to the people for the jobs you're applying to. So the practical side of that, right? Now, ultimately, that isn't the sole determining factor as to the experience you have. Your sense of self is the determining factor. Your sense of wholeness. Okay? So I'm constantly bringing people back to the source of all manifestation. Right? You know, the word manifestation, we think, oh, something appears out of magic. Well, no, it's not that at all. A manifestation is an appearance of something else, right? Something invisible. The airplane is a manifestation of the principle, the invisible principle of aerodynamics. The shape of the wing creates a vacuum, which creates lift, right? So that shape must conform, that is, manifest the underlying principle, and then it will experience the fruit of that. It will be an actual manifestation of the principle. Right? The mountains, right, are the Himalayas are an amazing example. I mean, Mount Everest, 36,000 feet high, which is where jets fly, right? Some jets will actually fly, and you'll still be looking up at the top of it. Now, this huge mountain range of these high, high mountains is a manifestation. Nobody put them there, right? What is manifest is the underlying structure, the tectonic plates that met, and the power, the sheer force of this invisible force pushed them up, actually pushed them up into the sky. So they are a manifestation of that underlying power. They don't have that power in and of themselves. Right? They never did. They never could. So nothing in your life is the actual substance of what you're seeking. Having more money is not abundance. It can be an appearance of abundance, one of innumerable things, right? But simply having money doesn't make it that. As a matter of fact, look around. Look at the hedge fund managers. Look at the greedy corporations. Right? Their money is not a sign of abundance. It's a sign of greed. And greed comes out of the sense of lack, the sense of needing to hoard. Right? For some, poverty and greed are sisters. They are two sides of the same coin. So they're not free. They're not experiencing the infinite nature of true nature of abundance, which is infinite being, the source of absolutely everything, the potential for absolutely everything. That is what you are. This is why it's so important to discover what you are, because what you are is not the appearance of anything else. Everything else, the Himalayan mountains, are an appearance of what is, and in relative to the mountains, what is the internal force pushing them to the sky. Coming back to yourself, you come to what is, and that isness will manifest itself in all sorts of different ways. But the manifestation is unimportant. The manifestation is transient. It will come and go, right? Because it is just an appearance. Right? Just like the image you're watching of me right now on your screen is constantly changing. It's coming and going. Matter of fact, you can click a button and I'll be gone. Poof. Right? Yet the screen, which is the potential for all images, and in fact the image is nothing but the self-modulation of the screen, right, is still there. Find what is, which means forget about the manifestation. You just recognize that if I'm experiencing lack in my life, it's a manifestation of a misunderstanding of myself as the separate self, which is the origin of the the fear of lack. No separate self, no lack. They are one and the same. Ego, lack. Right? That is the nature of the separate self. You are not the separate self. You are what is. And this will harmonize everything in your life. This is not abstract. Right? I'm putting you in touch with reality, with what is really here. Right? And what is not a manifestation of anything else. It is the ground of being. So, Faith, does that help you, my dear girl? Rosario and Madrid, hello. Jay, IG, and everyone from Sacramento. Have you heard of Henri Jalakir? I've heard the name. I know nothing about him, though. So, won't have anything to say about that. Drinking a lot of water because it is hot here. Weirdly hot. Martin, hello everyone. Is it possible to transmit energy and maybe heal or help a person that is far away just by thoughts and prayers? Not if you're a Republican. Sorry. They love to do that, you know. That's their way of avoiding any responsibility for actually doing an action that would make a difference. Anyway, the answer is yes. Right? Whatever image, remember, your experience of anyone, right, is happening completely within your own consciousness. And whatever appears in your consciousness, you are responsible for. How do you view them? Do you view them as a sick person, or a person in trouble, or a person who's struggling and needs help? Is that how you're picturing them? Then that will be your experience of them, and that will be the energy you are communicating to them. And it doesn't matter if they're here or on a distant planet, on another in another solar system, in another galaxy, because it is all here. Right? You are as close to the galaxy as you are to your thumb. I mean, there is no real distance. It is an illusion. So if we really take responsibility for what we allow in our consciousness, and I completely eradicate from my consciousness the idea that there could exist such a thing as a sick or helpless person, I have created the most powerful energy there is. Now, the reality is, that's actually the truth. But for most, that may be a little bit far to go right at this point. Put it this way, then. Holding that image of them, because it is the highest image you can hold, will have a direct impact on them and their life and their circumstances, undoubtedly. Right? Getting to the next level where you see that they don't exist outside of consciousness only happens when you come to recognize that consciousness is not personal and it's not localized. That the self that you are, that which is hearing my words right now, is not a person. It is not a seeker. It is the one and only consciousness. Just like the space here and the space wherever you are hearing me right now is the same space. It appears to be divided because of the content. But take the content out, and is the space where you are and the space that I am any different? Is there anything chopping it up? Consciousness is like that. It is pervasive. We imagine that it is localized within a body, right? And that there's me here and there's somebody else there. There isn't. This is to me, how Christ actually healed. He never thought of anybody as anything other than the self. And it was so deeply profound that it had just enormous impact on everyone around him. There's been many other healers in history that was the case as well. There's this realization that it was all happening within the mind. And therefore, when I am in touch with what is the pure, perfect reality of being, which can't be sick, which can't be helpless, which can't be lost, which can't be in need, when I recognize that this is what is, I realize it is what is for all. And I just start to let go of all of my ideas about anybody that is not the face of God. How's that, Martin? Does that give you something to work with? You know, there are several traditions, New Thought traditions, right? Unity, Science of Mind, Christian Science, and even the Course in Miracles. This is what it teaches, right? Ho'oponopono is based on that idea. That the guy who developed Ho'oponopono, he simply he took complete responsibility for himself. If there was a sick person out there, he said, "I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you." Took complete ownership. Like there was no sick person out there. It's only my belief in a sick person. If there's a sick person out there, there's not much I can do, right? Unless I'm a doctor or something. But if it's just my belief in a sick person, well, that I can eradicate it like that. And that's in fact the truth. So, beautiful. Dave and Elaine, so good to see you. I didn't realize you were so tall, David. I actually saw pictures of you and standing next to Elaine and some other people. And, whoa, that guy's tall. Lola. Hello, Lola. Hi, G. My husband cheated on me, and since then I am quite jealous. It costs me a lot of energy, and I don't like me that way. He's not very honest in general, obviously, which makes it a little bit harder for me not to be jealous and to not have negative thoughts and so on. It annoys me that I let so much energy of mine go in that direction of questioning his actions and having jealous thoughts. Thanks. Don't be annoyed. When someone betrays your trust, right, there's an energetic violation that takes place. You're married. That's a bonding. That's a commitment, right? And the commitment is to each other's well-being. And if someone wants out of that commitment, it needs to be upfront and discussed. And that's how you keep the commitment with integrity until the commitment does not exist anymore. That said, we're human, right? When things like that happen, there's a dissatisfaction, and who knows where it's coming from, right? I know for a lot of men that happens, and for a lot of different reasons. But what's important here is I'm not analyzing what's actually happened, but yes, you're going to have jealous thoughts. You're going to feel belittled and diminished because you were discounted. You had a sacred trust, and that trust was broken, right? And broken in such a way that you can't simply reestablish it, right? That kind of trust would have to be earned, right? If you even want him to bother trying to earn it, and if he even wants to try to earn it. I don't know any of the circumstances. The first thing I want you to do is to stop telling yourself, I shouldn't be feeling this, right? That's the classical spiritual thing. I'm going to be spiritual. I'm just going to forgive. It's a complete denial of human nature. It's a denial of our heart. The energy of connection has been severed. It's like a death, right? Or a breakup. An energy that had become so intertwined is now suddenly broken. You can't rely on him, you can't trust. And yes, you're going to be wondering what he's going to do. Of course you are, because you don't know. He's not trustworthy. And so I want you to just be present, really present with the feeling of that, and it's okay. You're going to feel jealous. Well, yeah. Get below the jealousy. It's a sense of being diminished, a sense of being demeaned, right? That somehow that you're not as valuable as this other woman, right? And so that's where there's the comparison is going on in the mind. What I want you to do is just witness it. Don't fight it. Don't try to stop it. But can you step back into the place of recognizing that this is the perfectly natural reaction of a nervous system to a traumatic event, trying to make sense out of it, trying to restabilize itself. And it is not the least bit helpful when, spiritually people say, oh, just forgive, let go, don't hang on to the jealousy and things like that. I'm showing you how to not hang on to the jealousy for real. And it's not by trying to get rid of it, it's by allowing it to be there. And this is totally paradoxical. But you're really taking your hands off of it. And when you do that, you honor your own feelings. You honor the fact that you have been violated. You've been wronged. Your trust has been compromised. And you do not have to give it back. Right? Only if you want to, and only if it's earned. So in your inner world, you are allowed to feel what you're feeling. This is the most important thing. Do not fight with your own feelings. Yeah, they can be overwhelming, but become aware of something that is aware of all of those feelings. This witnessing principle that is aware even of these most horrible and difficult feelings. And the more you are willing to be present with them, without trying to deny them or reframe them, without even trying to push yourself to find some solution to the problem, but just to be present, you will find a space opens up. And in that space, you will find a place for you, right, that will be strong, that will be honest, that will be in touch with you and your needs. And then the choices that you face as to you continue or not will start to come from this place of strength, because it's not a denial of your feelings. It's a recognition and an embracing of them, and in that process, they no longer dominate you. That's where the freedom is. So, does that help, Lola? And I'm very honored that you bring that to me. It's very, very touching, because I had that experience in my first marriage. And I was just so naive. It was going on, actually, for a long time, and I was just completely oblivious to it. It was a major league trauma, for sure. It was just, can I say, I wish I knew then what I knew now, or I wish there was somebody around who could tell me this at that time, but there wasn't. So I kind of had to muddle through. So I do understand what you're feeling, and so you can trust that there's some degree of authority here in kind of showing you a path back to that sense of wholeness that's been there the whole time. Thank you. Annette Rockstar. I love that name. Hello and namaste. I think too much about my past and sometimes don't accept things I cannot change anymore. I think how stupid, for example, this and that action of mine was, and blame me for it. How can I change this behavior? Thank you. Well, if I may just kind of rephrase what you're saying, the answer is, how do I become free from this? Right? How do I become free of the past? Right? Well, the simple answer is, let it be there. Right? Remember, freedom, as I was talking about in the beginning, is not the getting rid of anything. Right? If your freedom depends on being in this state of equanimity, right, and the triggers, the memories come up, and you, right, and we all have that experience. Like, oh my God, what was I thinking? We all have that experience. If freedom means that can't happen anymore, well, you're never really going to know if you're free, are you? Because at some point it could, right? Oh, it hasn't happened. Oh, it hasn't happened in a year. And then all of a sudden, whack, we're back. And it's all over you again, right? So if freedom depends upon something happening or not happening, it's a dependency, which by definition is the opposite of freedom. Freedom means no dependency, right? I am free because I am free. Nobody gave it to me. Nobody can take it away. I am free. Now, the freedom is found by bringing attention more and more to the witnessing principle that is aware of the memories and aware of the shutters running through the system, and also aware of the mind's commentary on it. It says, how stupid that this happened, you're to blame, that was really dumb, what were you thinking, right? I mean, the very same mind that suggested you do it in the first place immediately turns around and goes, well, that was stupid, wasn't it? Right? Same mind. Man, you really should do this. Oh, this would be great. Oh, that was dumb. God, you're stupid. The same mind. It's not stable. You can't trust it. It's a buffoon. It switch sides. It'll switch sides in the middle of an argument, and make you think you were wrong, right? So, it's freedom means I can let whatever happens, and I don't mind. Right? When a memory comes up, and this feeling is there, notice there's a very subtle sense that says, this is important. And I can't be free unless this doesn't happen. It's not true. You are free. Right? You've just identified with the person who's embarrassed, the person who feels guilty, right? Which itself is just another thought, being witnessed by the absolute pure witnessing principle, or the self, the real you. Now, are you not witnessing these feelings? Are you not witnessing all the thoughts, the judgments, everything that comes up after that memory pokes its head up? Are you not seeing all of this? Who are you? Who is it that is witnessing those? And is the witness of those subject to those? Is the sky subject to the clouds that happen to move through it? This is where I want you to put your attention. The more your attention is on the self, the witnessing itself, and becoming more and more subtle, and recognizing more and more how everything is being witnessed, is being perceived, right? And I am what is perceiving. Therefore, there's always some distance, however tight it may feel. There's always some distance between me, the witnessing principle, and what is being witnessed. And notice that those feelings aren't there now, right? That memory isn't there now. So what happened to it? It came and it went. everything comes and goes. What isn't coming and going? It's obviously not you, because if it was you, you'd be gone too. But you're not. The witnessing principle witnesses all of it, whether it's a good feeling or a bad feeling, whether it's a pleasant memory or an unpleasant memory, whether it's a beautiful future or a dystopian future, right? The same principle, the same self is watching all of it. That self is eternally free from what it watches. Just like you are eternally free from any movie you happen to be watching, no matter how involved you get with it. And of course, that's the fun of movies. We get emotionally involved. If we didn't, they'd be a boring movie, right? But this is the key to the freedom to recognize, oh, I was so emotionally involved, and none of it was me. Even at the time the stupid thing got done, it wasn't you. It was just the functioning of the nervous system, the conditioning. And in fact, based on your understanding and your level of self-awareness at the time, it was inevitable that it would happen. You couldn't have stopped it. The only way to stop it would have been to be somebody else then. But you weren't somebody else then. And that experience brought you to the point where you're sitting here in satsang, hearing about who you really are. So it actually isn't all that bad of a thing to bring you to the place where you can discover your true freedom. And your true freedom is you are the self. You always have been, you always will be. I keep pointing you back to that which the mind can't see. That which is looking cannot be seen, can it? The eye can't see itself. The finger can't touch itself. What does your inside of your mouth taste like? And the eye is a beautiful manifestation of the self. Notice, the eye does not pass any judgment on what it sees. If the light gets to it, it gets in. It's not filtering, throwing things away. It's just, oh, there it is, comes in. Later on, because of conditioning and thought patterns, we like some things, we don't like others. I don't like that. But it's already in. By the time your mind has said, oh, that's terrible, I don't want that to happen, it's already happened. It's already here, right? Awareness is like that. It doesn't have any issue with any of it because it can't be affected. It's infinite and immortal. What in the world can you do to it? It can't be offended. It can't be jealous. It can't be angry. How can it? All of those are just appearances coming and going on the screen of pure being, which is who you are. Does that help, Annette? Ah, lovely, lovely. You guys are really touching my heart today. Not exactly sure why. I don't know. I'm just feeling a little emotional today. Merck, my good buddy Merck. Hello, GP and all. Good evening from Sweden. Do we narrate everything to create a sense of security and control? Yes. To create the illusion of security and control, because you can't actually create it. Right? No matter how hard you try, no matter how big your army is or how many weapons you have, you notice it doesn't make anybody feel any more secure. Less so, actually. It's an illusion. He continues. Because when witnessing is happening and there's just unnarrated flow instead of pretending to be the doer, there's usually a nagging sense of uncomfortableness going along with it. Like a warning that my defenses are inactivated or something. That's a very, very good, well observed. I'm glad you noticed that. Because yes, as we begin to step out of who we thought we were, there will be some disturbance in the force, right? The nervous system, remember, the nervous system has organized itself around a self-image, right? That's what the nervous system does. A sense of self gets created, concretized. And now all of the energy of the nervous system, all the conditioning and patterns, all of it, at the sense of self and the ego, now form around that subtle sense of self. And everything starts to give manifestation to that subtle sense of self. Now, because it is the center, the linchpin, what would happen if you suddenly took the sun and just kind of poof, it's gone? What would happen to the planets? Right? They would just go flying off into space because the thing that's holding them together isn't there anymore, right? So when you have discovered who you are to any degree whatsoever, the nervous system is going to start getting a little anxious, right? You have just introduced an instability, right? Yes, it has to happen, right? But this is where the resistance comes from. This is why a tsunami will come. This is why it will start, pressing buttons and start triggering all sorts of things, because it does feel threatened, and you recognize that. The defenses have gone up. This is why you can't force it. This is why I teach the yoga of allowing. I teach this very compassionate self-inquiry. Right? This to create the space internally. If you try to force it on it, it'll resist like hell, right? And it's way better at playing this game than you are. So you'll lose, period. You will simply lose this battle. But if you approach it with this complete compassion, recognizing that this is the state of it, and it does not yet recognize you as the true self, you just very patiently start to whittle away at it. And if you create a space, an inner space of safety, it's the counteraction to that sense, the defensiveness. They'll start to come down, and the false self will begin to fade from the center, and the true self will begin to emerge. And when it does fully, and everything is now serving that, they're called the sage. Right? Buddha tells the story of the man, a wealthy man, right? An important man, right? The warrior class in India. And he had to go off to war. And, back then wars, you just didn't get on a plane and go somewhere. You were gone for years. Well, he was gone for 20 plus years. When he left, he put his head servant in charge, gave everybody the instructions they were supposed to do, and off he went. Well, he'd been gone so long that the various servants completely forgot about him, and they basically, this is me. I'm in charge. I'm the center of this thing, and the main servant was just, he was in charge. This was my place. Of course it is. And everybody served him. Right? Well, eventually, 20 plus years later, the master comes back. The master of the house comes back. Now he's, 20 years he's been gone, right? He's been at war. The guy's a mess, right? He's just a shadow of his former self. He's anxious to get back to his life and finally get some peace and rest and he comes back to the house and the door's locked, right? So he knocks on the door. They open up. Who are you? And he says, I'm the master. You're not the master of the house. Slam. Who you are, you fraud? The guy's totally taken aback. He said, okay. They don't recognize me anymore. So he says, no, he knocks on the door. He says, yeah, what do you want? He says, I'm sorry. I was trying to pretend because I need some help. Right? Is there any jobs I could do? Is there anything I could do to just kind of help out around here? And so I've been away and I don't have any money. If you can just help me out here. The guy said, okay. So I put him to work out in the stable and doing, really mundane stuff. But eventually, little by little, confidence in him grew. Little by little, more and more of the servants began to recognize who he actually was, until the main servant that he had put in charge recognized, Master, Master, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Come back. And the master was reestablished in the house. It's a beautiful way of recognizing that the mind does not recognize you as the self. It can't. It only knows its own thoughts. And so you've got to gradually bring yourself back into alignment, back into that center through compassion and just patience. And little by little, it will recognize you. It will remember you. Ah, the original innocence, the true self, the true master has returned. But it takes that. I mean, that's why I teach inner reconciliation. That's the process. That's the post-sadhana aspect of inner reconciliation, which I have a big training coming up on, probably at the end of August, beginning of September, that I expect you all to be in. I haven't even put it up there for signing up yet. But it will be all about that process, both to get to awakening and after awakening has taken place. But it's going to be primarily experiential. But this is the process. In creating this safe inner space by which it is safe for the nervous system to come out of its defensive posture and allow the inner transformation to take place, the transforming of the mind. And of course, it was the mind that was the servant that was put in charge. And it was the mind was kind of the last, the last one to agree. So, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Mark. Hopefully that answers. Julian, hey G, reading a question about transmissions. Sadhguru says he could transmit energy or a certain technique like a kriya to people around the world if they are alert and open to it. Is that possible? Yes, it is. But once again, I like to point out, as does, Sadhguru is an interesting character because he covers a whole variety of subjects, everything from manifestation to non-duality, which is one of the things I like about him, right? The thing is that when you teach that, which I used to do more of, right, is that it can get confusing. The message can get a little bit confusing. The answer is yes. There's all sorts of techniques, yogic techniques for doing all sorts of things. Whoops. Did my sound just get bad? I just heard a buzzing sound. I think it might have gotten bad for a second. So, yes, there are all sorts of techniques for doing that. Christ healed remotely. Other people, I've healed remotely. I mean, the things that I've worked on with people have often been when they weren't even present. It is a certain level of understanding, right? But it isn't the ultimate, right? The ultimate is there is no other to whom I am transmitting, and I'm actually, this whole thing is taking place completely within my own consciousness. And when I say my own consciousness, I'm not talking about a personal consciousness. I'm talking about the one consciousness. If you recognize that the consciousness that is hearing my voice right now is not personal, it is not Julian. Julian is a concept. That is the impersonal self, the one infinite being, and you are that. The idea of an other to whom you would transmit disappears. There is no other. At a different level of understanding, and there are many people at that level, it is a liberation to recognize that you can. Right? Now, the important thing to note about that is at that same level, this is also where you get the belief in black magic and voodoo and things like that seek to influence someone negatively from a distance. And that would operate at that same level of understanding. Now, that's not going to be the case for Sadhguru, it's not the case for you. That you'd only want to influence them in the most positive way, right? And if you understand that, you realize that that is the true power. That love and an acceptance of them as they are is the most powerful transmission. And that eventually the idea of an other can be transcended, where transmission, there's nothing to transmit to. The thought of them and them are one, and we are one. And there's no distance whatsoever, because there's no distance in the self. The self is the self of all. So the self of the one you're transmitting to and the self of you who would be doing the transmitting are the same. Now, this isn't a dismissal of it, right? I'm just trying to point out the different levels at which understanding grows. And in Satsang, the mission is to point you right to the end game, right? I don't want to take you through levels. I don't want to take you through, okay, now I got to go through level 13, and that'll be $2,500, like Scientology, right? There are no levels to the self. Our sense of seeking and our sense of understanding and our sense of growth is how it appears, but that's the appearance. That's not the reality. The seeking is the manifesting of the ultimate reality of the awakening, and that no one has ever been asleep. And that manifests itself as a sleeping and awakening, as opposites, right, as the yin-yang. Does that answer it for you, Julian? Right? So it's not a discount. I mean, the reality is I'm transmitting energy right now, aren't I? It's not just the words. You know, a lot of people could speak these very same words and you wouldn't have any sense of it. The words are imbued with an energy, right? I'm not the origin of that energy. It's not coming from me. It's coming from you. Right? There appears to be a conduit, but there's something in you that recognizes the truth of what I am saying, and that recognition is the real transmission. Right? So there's no separation. Even in appearance, there really isn't any separation. Thank you, Julian. Suzanne, hi there. Hi there, Suzanne. There are some people that steal my energy, or better said, I let them do it. What are the effects of people like that, and how can I stop them annoying or stealing my energy and stay centered? Okay. I'm just going to go right for the jugular on this to see if you can grasp it. Right. Everything you say is happening as an image in the mind, and none of it is real. None of it's true. Right? If I believe there is somebody who can steal my energy, I will have the experience of my energy being stolen. My mood drops, motivation drops, just, my just kind of droopy, right? It's caused not by them, but my belief that they can take it away. My belief manifests itself, not them. They don't have any power over you. That's the truth. There isn't anybody out there who can steal your energy. If you believe there is, you will find your energy draining, thinking somebody has taken it. But it's completely within your belief. Only what you believe manifests in your life. There's nobody out there doing anything to you. That's the fact. That's how you stop them. You hit it right at the root of it. It is your belief in it. There is nobody stealing your energy. Right? You believe that there are. This is so subtle, and throw in the comment later if it's just whizzed by you. But perhaps you can just feel the freedom of it. Oh my God, I don't have to stop them. I don't have to do some kind of ritual. I can't be possessed. They can't violate me unless I say they can. I am the ultimate authority. I am the ultimate sovereign within my consciousness. I am taking complete responsibility for what I accept as true, because I am so powerful that if I accept it as truth, it will become my experienced reality. It isn't reality, but it will be my experience. And because we are so used to thinking of what we experience out here as reality, I will call it reality and say, oh, look, there's people stealing my energy. Right? They're not. You are. You are the sovereign within your own territory. And because you are the truth, whatever you say is true will be manifested as if it was true. It will become experienced because you are the truth. That's your power. It is the power of the self. Whatever is believed becomes so. Now, don't take that as kind of, oh, okay, so I'm going to believe that I'm going to make a lot of money. Because that's just the ego looking for a way to try to commandeer this. Stick with the self. You are the infinite being. Can anybody steal God's energy? Who steals God's energy? Well, God is another word for you. It is simply a traditional religious word for the self. In the West, it's got turned into a personality, right? As it has in like Krishna consciousness, the Hare Krishna, right? The personality is Krishna, and in this case, it's Yahweh or it's Christ, right? But God is a being rather than being itself. The ultimate realization is that God is the I am, the sense I am. Now, can that sense of I am be stolen from you? It is you. How can anybody steal it? Can someone steal the energy of God? Does God wake up in the morning and go, oh God, gotta deal. God damn it, gotta deal with these people. Know who you are. Know who you are. And no one will be able to touch you. Because in fact they can't. I hope that helps you. David and Elaine. Very happy to have signed up for your patron program, G. Oh, my subtle reminder to tell everybody about my patron program. Those of you who would love to help me pay for all of this, I have a patron program where I put meditations, I put copies of the show, the radio show. The next radio show I'm doing is actually going to be the last for a while. I'm going to start doing stuff more in the group. I also have some tapping stuff. I've got satsang excerpts. I got a bunch of stuff there, but the main point is to just, I got very disillusioned with Patreon, so I've kind of like cut them off. I've created my own little space where people can, basically for $15 a month, you can help me out getting putting all of this on. It's already helped. There's already enough people there that I've been able to get some help with making excerpts of the satsangs, somebody else to do the editing other than me. So it's already helping me enormously. So if anybody wants to assist in that, if you can find it in your hearts, and if that's too much money for you, well, that's fine. I know for some it could be. But at any rate, there's such a wealth of resources to access, and are so glad time doesn't exist. Otherwise, there wouldn't be enough hours in the day. Yes. And you're referring to that wealth of resources in the patron program. Also, starting next month, I'm going to start doing a monthly satsang just for the patrons. It'll be kind of like a little mini retreat. It'll be on Zoom, so we can actually talk and the like, and interact as just kind of part of saying thank you to everybody for helping me do this, because I'm not independently wealthy. I have to have a means of income in order to keep this going, and I'm just trying to keep everything as cheap or free as I possibly can. Also free of commercials and YouTube ads and all of that. So thank you for reminding me to do that, David and Elaine. There is the link, folks. Easy to remember. I will take it off the screen because I don't want to look at it anymore. Ava. Hello, Ava in Poland. Karen, hello, everyone. I have difficulty with seeing everyone as myself. I don't have an issue when it comes to nature. Do you have any tips for me? Yeah, stop trying. It'll happen. It'll just happen. We don't. What can happen in our spiritual growth is some kind of very attractive idea grabs our attention, like seeing everyone as myself. I mean, you can feel the energy of that. It's beautiful. There'd be enormous compassion and sweetness to it. There'd just be this sense of connection, right? And when we first hear about those kinds of things, they're so attractive. We think there's some way I can get that. I can make that happen, as if it is a spiritual goal. And this is what happens to spirituality. It becomes process-oriented. It becomes like, I'm going to get something at the end of the road. The end of the yellow brick road, there's going to be the pot of gold, right? There's no pot of gold. There's no end of the road. There's no road, right? So instead, focus on knowing yourself. Right? As long as there's a sense of a separate self, you're not going to be able to see anybody as yourself. As long as my mind is identified with the body, there's always going to be an other. The I must first be freed from the body-mind identification, in which case there are no others anymore. Oh yes, of course it's all me. And the very fact that you can feel that in nature means you've tapped into where it really exists, right? It's not a conceptual thing, it's an energetic thing. You can simply feel your oneness with nature. And of course, the body is nature, isn't it? Right? We've just identified with this body instead of all of nature. But isn't this body just intricately interwoven with nature? I mean, the lungs depend on the tree depends on the lungs, right? Everything else depends on everything else. It's just this walking zoo of interdependency of all these living beings, trillions of living beings, trillions of cells, trillions of little bacteria, friendly bacteria, and that sort of thing, probiotics kind of thing. This is just a walking zoo. I mean, there's just so much here. But now, where are you? The body is simply life doing what life does. And this body is no more conscious or sentient than the tree out there. The consciousness that is aware of the body is not in the body, nor is it dependent on the body, nor is it limited by the body. That's where you want to free yourself. Who are you? Who are you that is aware? And as that expands, you'll begin to see that the others don't exist out there, but exist in here, in this consciousness. And that this me and this them are both being witnessed by this impersonal witnessing principle. Even the me that is thinking, how do I'm having difficulty seeing the others as myself. Isn't that me also being perceived? Isn't it really just a bundle of attributes, right? A bundle of thoughts and feelings? And isn't every single one of those thoughts and feelings being witnessed by something else? The actual witnessing principle has no attributes. If it did, it would have a definition. It would no longer be infinite. It couldn't be the self. The self principle, the I principle, right? The I principle which manifests itself as all individual forms. Right? So don't worry about seeing everyone as myself. See yourself. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Let go of every spiritual ambition, every spiritual aspiration, even to be more patient, to be more compassionate, to be more loving. Because if they become a practice you have to do, a rules you have to follow, it now becomes a religion, right? I will try to assimilate certain behaviors and thus be spiritual. None of that's real. All of that's transient and will come and go. Just be. Just feel that presence that doesn't have any boundaries to it, and yet is experiencing absolutely everything else. That's you. The rest will take care of itself, Karen. You won't have to worry about it. Beautiful. Beautiful. There's your tip. Hello, Yasmin. Liza from sunny, hot eastern Atlantic coast. Well, it's hot western Pacific coast, too. And it's supposed to get hotter. Hi, G. I don't identify myself with the divine feminine. Can I do something about it? Can you talk a little bit about the divine feminine? Thanks a lot. Steffi, right? Facebook user, but I kind of recognize your language. Steffi in Sweden. Oh, maybe it's not. I guess not. Because there's another one down here that says from Stephanie. So this Facebook user isn't Steffi. Okay. Then I don't know who you are. If you're on Facebook, especially if you're new, you'll notice there's a link up at the top that if you click on that, it will give my streaming service permission to find out who you are, so I can actually see your name as it appears on Facebook. The comments get through, so if you don't want that, that's fine too. Anyway, okay, the divine feminine. Traditionally, the self is one. The soul has no gender, right? And yet is all genders. The potential for everything, right? And the potential for everything, that which is beyond all opposites and categorizations, simply cannot be put into words. It cannot be thought. It cannot be spoken. How then does creation happen? Well, this one must create two. Right? It must make aspects of itself visible. Right? Pure white light you can't see, right? You look at the moon at night, and it looks like there's light on the moon and there's no light around it. And yet there's way more light around the moon than there is actually coming from the moon. We just can't see it. Why? Because it's not being reflected. The reflection is that capacity of an object to absorb some of the frequency and radiate or reflect out other parts of it. In that absorption and reflection, light becomes visible. You can see it. Right? So the flower isn't red. The trees aren't green. They simply absorb that which is not green and reflect that which is. Green is an attribute of light. Right? So with the yin-yang of the pure, undifferentiated wholeness of that pure white light of consciousness, it literally, in appearance, not in actuality, splits itself. And the very first split it makes is the masculine and the feminine, the mind and the heart, the assertiveness and the receptiveness. Right? Now, if they get out of balance, of course, they're very extreme. And stuff can get you get the cheesecake or the beefcake, right? Neither one of which represents anything. And the fact of the matter is that has nothing to do with the shape of the body. Right? The masculine and the feminine, as qualities of being, reflect themselves in the body. So this is a male body, right? So it has the characteristics we associate with the male, the lower voice and shorter hair sometimes, right? And the feminine with the nurturing and the higher voice and the capacity to actually give life, right? The perpetuity of life. So the fact that you have a female body means your body is the goddess. The goddesses of all time have been metaphors for you. Right? The goddess energy, the divine feminine, has manifested as your body. Right? And the characteristics of your body, and the attributes of your body, and the way you speak, and the way you hold yourself. Which means, while you, the true you, are neither masculine or feminine, the mode of your expression is going to be feminine, because that's the vehicle you have, right? You know, if I play a song on a piano, it sounds one way. If I play it on a guitar, it sounds another way. Same song, different manifestation, different attributes associated with it. So you don't have to, you are, that is, your human form is the divine feminine, because it is all divine. And in order for the divine to be known at all, it must take away some of the qualities and amplify others. That's the masculine and feminine. And isn't it beautiful that there's this natural drawing, right? This natural attraction that they hold for each other. And that doesn't matter. That also isn't dependent upon gender, right? It doesn't have to be the shape of the body. Those qualities, right? Because they don't have to be in a particular form. You know, Native Americans recognized the different genders, the transgender and the lesbian and the gay. They were just different. They all just happened, right? Matter of fact, if somebody was transgender, they just called them the Two-Spirit, right? And they were actually highly revered, right? So it has nothing to do with that, right? So we can put that aside. But your feminine body is the goddess energy, right? The goddess energy is subordinate to you, the infinite consciousness, and is the vehicle through which you express yourself. And because you're expressing yourself with that instrument, it will sound and look and be like that, right? And so there would be a tendency for the feminine form to be, well, we'd say the feminine is more nurturing. It's not really true. It expresses nurturing in a feminine way. The male form expresses nurturing in a masculine way. The wisdom is expressed by both. Love is expressed by both. The heart is expressed by both, right? But it is simply what instrument you're playing the song on. Try to think of the song without the instrument that it's played on, and you realize that it's almost an abstraction. It exists, but it's not made manifest. In order for it to be made manifest, it has to conform to a shape. You just happen to be conforming to the shape of the feminine right now. And so enjoy it. Enjoy everything that comes with it, right? Enjoy the way it feels. Enjoy the experiences that it has. There's actually a myth, a story of a god or a demigod, one of these guys, and he angered, one of the big gods, a god bigger than him, and so as his punishment, he was turned into a woman. And after a while, the god reconsidered. So 8 years later, he turned him back into a man. You know what all the gods wanted to know when they turned him back into a woman? All the gods wanted to know, hey, who has better sex, the man or the woman? The answer was the woman, hands down. I love mythology. So enjoy this form. It's not going to be here forever, right? Enjoyed every other form that consciousness has taken. But the nature of consciousness is so infinite. But you see this masculine and feminine energy everywhere. The plants, everything has got that kind of an energy to it. So it is obviously significant. It's the fundamental hiding and amplifying, hide and go seek, that light plays in order to be seen by itself. Imagine light being self-modulating, that it's just modulating itself, that the plant doesn't even exist out there, right? I mean, if the light had the capacity to simply modulate itself, to hold back and to give things, right, to let some colors out and some colors back, it would create an entire universe that you would see that wasn't there. That's in fact what happens. But I won't go into that right now. Amy. Hello, Amy. Wonderful, Amy. Red rose for you. That's my Sonia. Hello, Sonia. Just jumped ahead on me. Hello, Bo. Good to see you. Let's see. I'm not going to get through all the questions today. Facebook user Namaskaram from Steffi. Hi, Steffi. Is there an especially powerful time during a day which makes a spiritual practice more impactful? Thank you. Much love from Germany. Not necessarily, but everybody kind of has their own rhythm. I love the early morning, although I have been of late meditating, just going into the silence later at night as well, before I go to bed, and then first thing in the morning. Very early in the morning, I like to wake up, like before the sun, at 4 in the morning. I live so far north that there's a lot of sun, not as much as you out there in Sweden. So just find your own space, right? There's no cut and dry. There's no hard rules. Just don't make a rule for yourself that says if I don't get that time, then my spiritual practice is not going to be impactful. That would be a belief that would impact your practice. But find your own rhythms. Eckhart Tolle talked about when he tried to write The Power of Now when he was in England. Nothing happened. He just got an inspiration to go to the West Coast. I think he started in California, and then he lives up in Vancouver now. And when he was on the West Coast of the United States, he said the book just flowed. But then times he would have to go back to England and nothing. So don't diminish it, right? There are environments. I used to love when I lived in California, I would go up to Mendocino, which is a beautiful coastal town, and I'd bring my keyboard and stuff, because when I was there, it was just like one idea after another. Things just really flowed. So it's okay, yeah. Just don't make a rule for yourself that says, if I'm not in this space, I'm not going to get anywhere. That's not true. Don't make any rules. Just let yourself naturally flow into the places that feel most natural to you. This is just you harmonizing with the rest of you. Great. Thanks, Steffi. Beautiful Steffi. Rebecca, hi everybody from Western Kentucky. Wow, I think you are my only visitor from Kentucky. Keep trying to get Mitch McConnell to come, but just doesn't seem interested. Hello everyone from hot and muggy Boston. It's Dale. Been looking forward to reminding myself of who I really am. Good. That's why we're here. Hello G and everyone else. Greetings from sunny Sweden. It's Playan and Roberto in Madrid. Roberto, my dear friend. Milo. Hello. I had a very profound experience. Had very profound experiences during meditation, and for a little while, it made me a better person. But it did not stay very long that way. Do you have any advice for how I could integrate these experiences into my daily life and make them last longer? I can't do that, but I can point you to that which doesn't require a particular experience in order to be the perfect person, the perfect self. One of the big misunderstandings in spirituality is that somehow it's this experience I get, right? And so seeking becomes about trying to get and hold on to these kind of peak experiences, these, that it's like like a journey, right? Like a plant medicine journey, or or just come. Oh, I've had the experience of oneness, or the ego drops away. I've experienced ego death for a bit, but then it comes back, and we think, oh, okay, so that's what I'm after, right? No, it's not. Anything that comes and goes isn't you. Anything that comes and goes can't be it. Because if it's truth, it's always true. It cannot be something that comes and goes. What comes and goes is an appearance. Right? They are feelings, they are thoughts, they are experiences. Even the peak experience, even seeing God, right? Papaji, before his awakening, was with Ramana Maharshi, who was his guru. And from the time he was young, Papaji, his actual name escapes me now, his given name, he literally experienced Krishna. He was a devotee of Krishna, not a Krishna, Hare Krishna one, but a devotee of Krishna, to the point where Krishna appeared to him. He would talk to him. They would play together. And this continued actually into adulthood. He was as real for him as I am for you, right? Or as, the person you're with right now is for you. And he was he'd go up during the day, up into Mount Arunachala, and he would play with Krishna, and then come back down to be with Ramana. Well, he was coming down once, and Ramana was walking up. And Ramana said, what were you doing? And Babaji said, I was playing with Krishna. And he says, oh, you see Krishna? He says, yep, seen him all my life. We play together. And Ramana says, is he here now? And Babaji goes, no, he's not here now. So he says, anything that comes and goes isn't real. Find that which doesn't come and go. Whoa. It shook him to his boots. But that was the open door that led to Papaji's enlightenment. Right? It wasn't an experience. You're not an experience. You are the ultimate experiencer. And the experiencer cannot be an experience. You cannot step outside yourself and experience yourself, can you? You are always here. So any experience you have, no matter how wonderful it is, right, is only an experience. When you recognize that, right, the experience will then take its rightful place, not as an integration into you, but an integration into the idea you have about yourself. And it will begin to dissolve it, to permeate it, to weaken the grip of the ego. But no matter how weak it gets, even when it completely disappears, right, it's not you. And the process by which the entire thing had happened is not you. You are that which is aware of it. You don't need to integrate anything. All experience is appearance. It is phenomenal and therefore not real. When I mean not real, it doesn't mean you're not experiencing. It's not like it's a hallucination. What I mean is it is not objective. It has no entity other than your experience of it. Look for that which is not coming and going, because that is the reality. You are the reality. Is it not you that is there before you meditate, during the meditation, and after the meditation is over? And when the experiences happen, are you not there before, during, and after? And when they have an impact on your human life, that is the nervous system and conditioning, are you not there to watch them have the impact, to see that impact unfold, and maybe even watch it dissipate? Which it will do, because it takes a while for the conditioning to adjust. But the conditioning, adjusting, and integrating is not you. You don't need any integration. You don't need any adjustment. You are the pure witness. Right? So they don't need to last longer. Right? And the very act of wanting them to last longer, notice that that creates a sense of discontent, a sense of I'm not enough, a sense of suffering even. That feeling of grasping, I've got to get this. You don't have to get anything. You're it. You are what you are seeking. Right? Turn around completely. Let the experiences be there, and let all your attention go to the witnessing I, the witnessing principle, the consciousness that is hearing my words right now is you. And it is the infinite impersonal consciousness. That is the I am, that is God. That is the ultimate. That is you. You simply refer to it as me. And then the mind, because it's got all sorts of associations with that word me, presents you all sorts of pictures of who this me is. None of them are you. None of them could be you. They come and go. Find that which does not come and go. That's the advice Ramana gave to Papaji. I'm giving it to you. Thank you. Red rose for you. Sonia, I was contemplating how no one can make us feel good or bad, guilty or not guilty, scared or not scared. Same with life circumstances. I am aware of it now. Wow, you're giving the answers as I write this. I was going to ask how to not let outside circumstances affect you. Good, I already answered it. Before you ask, I shall answer. Before you call, I shall deliver. Hello, Mary Sykes. My mind is the dreamer. Yes, not you. You are not the dreamer. The guy in the dream doesn't wake up. You are not the dreamer. Hello, everyone in Sifu. Just signed up for one of your courses called Tapping Fundamental and got a discount as a subscriber. Yes, so bonus. Thanks, Ava, for recommending. Yes, that's right. I forgot to let everybody know. If you're a subscriber, that is, if you're part of my patron program, you also get a 10% discount on all of my courses, right? Bar none, even the expensive trainings. So, how about that for a deal, huh? It's that important to me that I get a bunch of people into that program. It is just so helpful. Hi, GP. Happy to be with you on a Sunday night, 9:14 in South Africa. Sometimes I fall asleep during satsang. Good thing I don't. I wake up and listen to you on and off all night. I don't like to miss one word of yours. Oh, Sue. So beautiful. So beautiful. Yes, there. If I thought I was responsible for these words, I would be very, very embarrassed of myself. They spring right from the heart of truth. Right? There's not even anybody here speaking them. No, they just kind of it takes over. Beautiful. Puya. Unwanted thoughts are so related to the contracted nervous system. In the better meaning, contracted nervous system triggers the thinking process automatic. That's how unwanted thoughts appear. Correct. But get this too, that thinking they're unwanted thoughts is also part of the trigger. See if you can take that in. Who said they're unwanted? It's part of the trigger. Set up a conflict. Oh, what if they're just thoughts? Neither wanted nor unwanted. They're just thoughts. Suddenly, unwanted loses the pejorative. It loses the stigma, and it has no more significance. Right? Now you're free. Beautiful. Make a pathway. Thank you. You're welcome, Louise. Bo, dear G and Ola Sangha, cheers from a very, very hot spot, 40 degrees Celsius in Kelowna, British Columbia. Yeah, it's getting there here. It's getting there here too. It is kind of a, I understand it's something about the jet stream, and it has a great deal to do with the climate destabilization. Great answer to Hendrik. Hendrik said, yes, that helps. Thank you. Good, good. Bo, sitting on a beach with my feet in the water and still listening to the words of wisdom. Even our parents couldn't do it without having to travel to India. Yeah. We should be so grateful for the benefits of the internet. Yeah, the internet is it's kind of a manifestation of our oneness. It is a manifestation of the universal nervous system, that we in fact are one being. That is a fact. We imagine ourselves to be separate. And that's what the real meaning of this is. Of course, as that connectivity happens, right, and that sense of other falls away, all the noise of the ego, right, and the greed and the stupidity and the like, all of that we'll be hearing it from all over the place. And so it's just more nonsense, and you learn how to just kind of phase that all out. Right? It's just kind of bigger. Eva, thank you for your answer to Hendrik Beck. I can see clearly how fragile my freedom is, no matter that I recognize all your teachings as truth without any doubt. Oh, good. Good. Wow, beautiful. I don't doubt them. It's sometimes my mind does doubt, right? And for a long time I struggled with doubt, right? Because I thought somehow I had to get rid of doubt. Then I realized, well, who cares? It's just a thought, right? So the mind's doubting. The mind's always going to doubt, right? Of course it's going to doubt. It can't see the truth. So it's always going to doubt. So it's about, I don't know if that's true. Oh, that's true. Almost true. Very close. You're very close. It doesn't, there's no doubt in the self, is there? It's just another cloud passing. Hello to Marty Hale in Vancouver. Science of Self. Oh, it's a new, I don't think I've seen that name before. Maybe I have. As I go through every day, I look at my thoughts all day long. I notice, feel, and release. I understand my imprints reacting to the stimuli it encountered. I feel separate, but suddenly feel closer to everyone I meet because I understand they deal with the same mechanism but are unaware. That's compassion, my friend. That is compassion. Ah, that's right. It's all of us. I'm now intuiting, avoiding triggering anyone in any way to lessen their burden. Am I onto something? I read it and it smells like a small deal, but it feels so big. That's compassion, right? You're noticing, right? You're not. Don't think that your spiritual ascendancy means you will never ever trigger anyone, right? Right. You become conscious of it. You become consciously engaged with people, and you recognize that. Because you're not unconscious, you're aware of them and what will trigger them. Now, I have to tell you as a teacher, sometimes I'll do it. I'll hit that button, right? Right? If I'm in a position where together we can let that trigger become exposed and they can get a bigger sense of freedom, I'm more than happy to go, bing. Let's see what happens. Matter of fact, in the Just Allowed course, there's one section that's called intentional triggering, right? We can do that to ourselves. It's a very powerful way of really clearing out the system and creating a space of inner safety. But obviously, like you, if it's not somebody I know, I don't have a relationship with a teacher with them, I'm not going to trigger them. I'm not going to purposely do anything like that. But just recognize that you might, right? You just might. Right? It's okay, right? You don't have to beat yourself up for anything. You don't have to say, the energy and desire for a deeper compassion is growing directly out of your deeper seeing. And as a result, because you can see, and because you do know that they're having exactly the same experience, and because you're looking at it from a higher place, you can include them in your higher space. And, at some point, if you're actually a teacher, you create an inner environment where you can go, dong. And it will be in a space so safe that that it'll bring healing. It'll bring liberation for them. So it seems like a small deal, but it feels big. Compassion is a big deal. When it is not a behavior you're trying to act out, I'm going to spiritual, I'm going to be compassionate, but it has naturally arisen out of your understanding, which, as I'm seeing here, it has. Right? That's the feeling I'm getting from it. So, trust it. It's leading you on into deeper and deeper space. Beautiful. Jay, talking about, I can't remember the guy's name, Henri Jalakir? Yes. He's the one who interviewed David Godman about Ramana Maharshi, and you could tell Ramana had a great influence on him because he's really skeptical of teachers like Papaji, Muji, and Gangaji. It compares them to Ramana's teaching and method. Now, using your own terminology, they themselves probably consider themselves as a candle to the intense flame Ramana is. But to label Muji having a Muji cult and a fake guru, Gangaji being boring, and not realized, to me feels like he has a picture of what a self-realized teacher should look and talk like. Now I realize that's where I remember him from and seeing those interviews. I would tend to agree. If he was just saying, well, Muji doesn't resonate with me, or Gangaji doesn't, or GP doesn't resonate with me, I'm going to stick with Ramana. I go, fine, but just kind of make it a blanket denial. He has a particular image, it would seem, I don't know him, of what the guru is supposed to look like. There are many people that will reject Muji because he's from Jamaica, right? He's not Indian, right? Right? You're supposed to be Indian, right? Right? How can you be a guru if you do not speak like Indian, right? I mean, a lot of people feel that way. And they need to have that appearance in order for the truth to come in. But once they get to a point where they actually see the truth, they will recognize it everywhere in the costume. Even if somebody isn't expressing it as perfectly and as purely as Ramana, which is everybody, it'll still be discerning that it is the same energy. What he's done has made it a personality without realizing it. Like somehow truth has been confined to a form. That can't be the case. I think you assessed it correctly, Jay. Bongawe Mukwanasi. Boy, I'm really sorry about butchered your name there. Hello, how do I access my inner self and stay in touch with my inner self? What a great question. Oh my goodness, I'll go for a little longer. I can't help it. It's the questions get this deep and I want to Okay. You can't access your inner self. Notice that when you say accessing my inner self, you've made you and yourself two different things, right? How do I access my inner self? I would say, okay, put aside the inner self and stay in touch with it. Put that aside for a second. Who are you? Who is it that's asking to access their inner self? Is the self something other than you? And just notice that. There's a very real sense of presence talking about the inner self, which is a concept, isn't it? You have an idea of what the inner self is. And it's a spiritual idea, probably an advanced idea, but it's something other. It's an other that I have to get to. Who's the I? Who's the I that is aware of this thought, inner self, that I have to get to and stay with? Right? And even if I get to it and I stay with it, do I still not have two? I am not, in that case, I am not it. So there will always be this. There will always be this gap. Now just notice, there is someone, something that is aware of this concept, inner self. Put that aside. Just completely set aside engaging with the sense of a self I have to get to. Are you not still here? If that thought never even occurred to you about an inner self, are you still not here? Or not still here? Have you gone anywhere? That's the self. It is just our habit energy of thinking that it's some kind of rarefied state we get to. Some kind of, colors and lights and rainbows and unicorns. Okay? It's you. It's you. You are the inner self. You can't be anything else. And there's just this idea that somehow I have become separated from me. Good trick if somebody could actually do it. Can you stand aloof from yourself and look at yourself? So you are the inner self. And you don't have to be in touch with it. You can't lose touch with it. It's you. This is the simple truth. It is you. So there, you've accessed it. And just set aside all thoughts that you're not that, and you're free. Game over. Bless your heart. Bongiwe? I don't know how to say her name, but it's really beautiful. It looks beautiful. Marguerite, hello, bonsoir from France. Wonderful to hear you again. Thank you, Marguerite. Well, gee, Elaine is quite small, so maybe that makes me seem taller. All a matter of perception. I see. Could be that too. Faith. Thanks, my sheik. Please pray for me. My dear girl. My dear girl. Yeah. You're destined for freedom, you know. Me and the white suit you. Ah. Thank you, my white shirt. My white guru shirt. Hearts and flowers from Make a Pathway Louise. Thank you. Mario V, question G. Could you please explain a bit how is that just appeared moment to moment from nothingness? Well, it's a misunderstanding of nothingness. Right? It's not nothing. It's not a thing. For the mind, the opposite of something is nothing. Right? There's nothing there. Now, obviously, if it's truly nothing, a total void, nothing can appear. Right? There's nothing out of which it could be made. You can't have an appearance if there's not something that exists. So there is something that exists. Right? But here's the wonder of it. It's not a thing. Everything is an appearance of what is called the emptiness. It is empty of all quality except being. It is. And that's all it is. Right? It is not an is that is like this or that. It is the isness of all the thises and that's. Right? So at the essence of every object you want to look at, right? Watch everything. Its essence is the isness. It draws its appearance from beingness. And that beingness is not a thing. If it's a thing, it has boundaries, doesn't it? It is a set of attributes. It has a form of some kind. All things have a form. That which is, which gives rise to all form, itself cannot be a form. There, to the mind, it looks like nothingness. And in fact, when you say emptiness, the mind hears nothingness. Right? It's no thingness. It is formless being. In a sense, its only attribute is that it exists. It just is. And because it is, every form is the manifestation of this isness, this essential beingness. But it cannot be conceived, right? Because it's not a thing. And all our conceptions, all our ideas, all our thoughts are things, subtle things. You know, thoughts are very subtle things. Feelings and sensations, they're very subtle things, but they are things, right? I guess the generalized term you would use is they're an object of some sort. You know, a thought is an object. It's not a thing like this, right? Which reminds me to drink water. It's not a thing like that, but it is an attribute. It has definition. Right? The self, reality, doesn't have that. What is not a thing at all. It is not, it's not appearing as anything else. This is, the mind cannot go beyond the thingness of a thing. It cannot step into that space. You go beyond the mind because it's you. You are that. You are that no thingness. Right? And just ponder this for a second. Do you not exist? Isn't that a self-evident fact for you? I am. That's the isness. You are what is. Is there something else that made you? No. No, there isn't anything beyond what is. Right? That's where the buck stops. Therefore, if I am that. I am that isness. And everything then is a manifestation of me. And I like that word for God, me. The street name. God has a street name. Yo, what's up? I'm me. Thank you, Mario. Does that help? Wow, that help? Let's see. Rez, only your belief in it is what makes the difference, but then where does that put the idea of the earlier question that you can heal from afar? What you're actually healing from afar is your belief in it, not them. You don't have to heal them, right? Just like you think, oh, somebody can take my energy. I believe they can, therefore I experience it through the belief. I believe that there's somebody out there who is sick. I'm only dealing with in my own consciousness. That's it. That's it. That's all I'm dealing with. Does the recipient need to know you're healing them in order to believe healing is taking place? No, it's all completely within you. Matter of fact, if you are thinking about yourself influencing them, you're creating a different kind of dynamic. I'm pointing to something beyond all of that. I'm pointing to a level of spiritual healing that is beyond the sense of me and other, where it all comes home to you. And all I ever have to deal with is my belief in a sick person or an evil person. Right? If I believe in it, I experience it. Do you realize the power of this, the influence that could be had over what appears to be the world? which is happening completely within your own mind. It's a whole subject in and of itself, but but it's just kind of touching on it. And again, it's the kind of thing that needs a little preparation to bring you to. It's not the kind of thing that hops up right away. Look, I need intelligence. Bogdan, you have intelligence. You are intelligence itself. Look around. The universe is nothing but intelligence. There are no mistakes. There are no formless things. And you are the intelligence of that. Oh, I get more hearts and flowers and rainbows from Makeup Pathway Louise. Rosalind. Hello, Rosalind. Sometimes I like Palo Santo, and it's so peaceful and quiet. I'm trying to not think of outside influences being toxic. Am I feeling safe by myself because it's reliable? Sometimes it feels static that I'm not doing more. Thank you for this time. I'm loving homeschooling. Oh, great. Wonderful. It's both, right? Withdraw into yourself. Don't think of anything outside. I'll do that. Light a candle, light some incense, just sit in the quiet. And one of the reasons I like this apartment is because the atrium, the city's over there. I shut this window, and it is very quiet. Very, very quiet. But I've also cultivated the capacity to be in that quiet space when I'm on the subway or when I'm standing in the middle of traffic, right? Because my inner space is not subject to that. But the practice always starts with first getting quiet. That's why retreats are valuable, right? That's why I do them, right? To create a quiet space where you can get in touch with that. And then intentionally trigger, kind of bring the other stuff up so that it starts becoming your baseline, right? So it's okay. Palo Santo, I like that, love it. I always fall into a deeply grounded place in your satsangs. Thank you with all my heart. So, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. And I'll forgive myself when I do. I think I covered that already for Science of Self. Yeah, I'm getting towards the bottom here. I'll keep going for a minute. Himonk, it's been so long, G. I'm glad I was able to make it. By the way, how do you get people to stop thinking you're a sociopath? And is there really a difference between someone who's awakened and an actual socio mentally when the negative connotations are disregarded? Oh my God, yes. Because the awakened one is not a misfit, right? They're awake. That's all. They're awake to all of it. They're awake to the functioning of the ego and how the ego works. They're awake to how the ego can so serve itself that it loses its capacity for empathy and therefore becomes sociopathic. That's what it is. It's the incapacity to feel empathy for somebody else. The awakened person cannot do that. They cannot help but be aware of the effect that they have on others. Right? Even though in the depth of the knowing, they know there is no other, right? But then it becomes a matter of not how am I treating others, but how am I treating life? How am I treating myself? Why would I mistreat myself? And then seeing that, it makes you actually capable of making intelligent and loving decisions about what the right things to do. What kind of an economy should we have? How should we organize ourselves, right? Because we want to organize ourselves because if we do, we make life easier, right? So what's the best way to do that? If I'm free from ego, I will not have any kind of ideological attachment to one way over another. I'm a communist or a socialist or a capitalist. All of those will become neutral, and I'll go, what works? What works for all? So there's it would sound to somebody just hearing non-dual speak from the outside that it's like sociopathic. What do you mean there's nobody else? There's nobody else to think of. It's all me, right? So please don't go there, right? That's why I so emphasize the opening of the heart as did Ramana. For Ramana, then, for the heart and enlightenment were the same, right? He referred to the spiritual heart, the essence, the dead center of yourself, that light at the center, pure consciousness, pure awareness is the heart, right? The feminine principle, the open, loving, and nurturing, the mother goddess. Mother goddess is not sociopathic, right? The tribe, the ego, is, because it can't see anything other than its own point of view, or the point of view of its group, which is what an ideology is. A group ego. That's all it is, and is all completely wasteful. Let's see. So no, they're not the same. They are not the same at all. Right? One lacks empathy or compassion. The other is nothing but empathy and compassion. The only difference is that empathy that is rooted in the deep wisdom will not suffer because of the empathy. And that's compassion. And that absence of the suffering, that is, not having an attachment to any particular outcome, right, is the space in which others can realize their own freedom. It is not indifference. It is absolute caring without suffering. That's a nice way to put it. Jay, thank you for another beautiful satsang. Henri might disagree, but Ramana Maharshi's teachings are ever flowing through teachers like you. I like to think so. I've not seen anything I say that contradicts what he's said, and I've also watched how he addressed things. Even in Talks with Ramana Maharshi, one of his most well-known books, it's broken down into the absolute, the silence, then the absolute, then down level to level to a place that of the simplest, that people could grasp. So he wasn't forcing people up into the absolute. Buddha did the same thing. Just he would invent a new model on the spot for whoever the audience he happened to be talking to. Some of them were perpetuated, like the Four Noble Truths of Suffering, but even that is transcended in the Heart Sutra, as is all teaching. Amen to that, Jay. Oh, thank you guys. All appreciated. Make a Pathway, Louise. What a great name. Plan. Thank you as always. Where'd you go, Plan? Oh, there you are. Feel so much calmer after your satsang. Oh, good. Diane. Oh, Diane, GP. Very hard to see to text, but I saw myself in your words. I will come to your teaching if I can. Much love. You're very welcome. Profound thanks for satsang with love and deep appreciation, one and all. Robert Hill. Gee, why do we come as humans? Did our awareness evolve to it through animals? Would it be possible to reincarnate as an animal again? Or is this question irrelevant? Well, I don't regard any question as irrelevant, because if I do, your mind will just kind of hold it back. Give your mind permission to go, okay, well, I'll just hold on to this one then, right? Let's just put it to rest. According to the teaching, the model of reincarnation, yeah, it's possible. In some traditions, the last thing you think about will be how you reincarnate. There's even a story of a man who he was running a business, right? He's totally into his business, right? Nothing but business. But up his sleeve, when he died, he had 4 sons, and he named them like Rama and Krishna and Shiva and Vishnu, so that when they were there at his deathbed, he could focus his attention. on Rama, right, for his next birth. Right? As time went on, the day comes. He's laying around in the bed. He's on his last breath. He looks around. He sees all his children. He names. He goes, "Oh my God, who's minding the business?" And he died. You can't. You have to develop the character over time. It's just not going to be able to sneak you in at the last minute. The last minute you accept Christ as your personal Savior, and that's it, right? It doesn't matter what you've done. But remember, the reincarnation, karma, and all of that only applies to the separate sense of self. It does not apply to the self. Okay? So what we call the human is manifest awareness. It's not awareness didn't evolve. It didn't come as a human any more than your dream at night, right, was you coming as a dream. It was an appearance to you, spontaneously arising, simply because of your nature. It is the nature of the human system to dream, and so it does. It just comes out of our very nature. So the very nature of awareness gives rise to form. And in the giving rise of that form also arises identification as form. That's how the experience takes place. So there's no evolution for awareness. Right? So that question is not irrelevant, but the question of karma and reincarnation does not apply to that which is timeless, which is you. The self that witnesses every life is the same self, right? Just, the self that started watching me when satsang began, and the self that will watch when it ends and I sign off and it goes away, is the same self, isn't it? It's the same self that witnessed what you called your life when you were 5 years old, and then when you're 40, and when this one passes away, it'll still be there witnessing it, and when the next one appears, it'll still be there. Understanding this is the end of incarnations. That's the no return, right? Because you were never incarnated in the first place. It was always simply just what was happening, and that's the freedom. And then there may be more incarnations or not. I don't know. I can't see beyond that point. All I know is that the self is the self. And how it manifests is still a mystery because, God, I don't even know what the self is. I just know I'm that. That's it. How can you even say what it is? You can't. It's infinite being. How does infinite being manifest itself? As everything. And the potential for anything else. And it'll never stop. But I'm not incarnating. The idea that I am incarnating is the sense of a self projected on the form. So that has made it now irrelevant for you without making it irrelevant, which gives your mind something of, oh, you didn't answer the question, I'll just have to hold on to this for a while. It does shit like that. Thank you for your presence, says Ava. So great, Liza. As always, all my questions got answers. Thank you for being here for us. Bob. I love you, Bob. Faith, you're a father figure for me, and I love you. Actually, one night I felt something warm in my heart, and I knew it was your love for me and your prayer for me. Thanks for your presence. Beautiful. Jeez. I have a lot of kids these days. I've become the father figure. I used to be the hot guy. Now I'm just the father figure. Oh, well. Life changes. Inbox me for accurate reading. Okay. Thank you, GP. I'm grateful for your perspective. It's so cool. You're welcome. So cool. Is that Mikey? Inbox me for accurate reading. Dear GP, so good to be here. So good to have you, Sophie. Well, that's it. 2.5 hours. I got through the whole list. And wonderful, 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 wonderful. So thank you all. Thank you all, my dear friends. Thank you for being here. Well, I should look at the camera so I look at it, right? So I look at the comments over here and I can look at the camera. So thank you all for being here. It's a great pleasure. And as always, it's such an honor. It's such an honor. I mean, there's nobody to be honored or not honored. It's just such a miracle, a wonder. So thank you all. Till next week. Namaste.